One of the requirements of the Florida Continuous Improvement Model is in the differentiated accountability. As we know right now, only 24% of our schools are not in differentiated accountability. The remainder of our schools are in differentiated accountability in one category or another. Because as of our last year's data, we only have 24% of our schools that have met the federal No Child Left Behind requirements. In the schools that are in differentiated accountability, we are required to implement the Florida Continuous Improvement Model. Being a district in corrective action, because we only have 24% of our schools meeting at adequate yearly progress, we implement the Florida Continuous Improvement Model district-wide. Those of you that are familiar with that, and hopefully you've been exposed to the information and training that we provided to your coaches and to your administrators and to the 4,500 teachers that attended 4-day academies this summer on how to better instruct the students based on the guidelines that we were receiving from the state. The Florida Continuous Improvement Model requires that every school have a focused calendar that has a pacing for the standards that are required of the state to be taught prior to March.
Yes.
In addition to that, it requires that progress monitoring be done with regards to how the children are attaining and achieving the standards that is expected of them, and how the teachers and administrators and school sites are providing the appropriate intervention, remediation, acceleration, enrichment, and most importantly, reteaching. And we know currently that one of the methods that we implemented as a district, and we had 125 teachers this summer that worked diligently, a lot of hours, to be able to create not only the pacing of the frameworks, inclusive of teachers who sit on state committees to write the FCAT, to grade the FCAT writing, and most importantly, to create the items of the FCAT, sat on those committees this summer to write that pacing of those curriculum. Keeping in mind that every year we receive a cluster analysis of which items have the biggest weight with regards to instruction within the year of that spectrum. One of the things that occurred is that the frameworks, which are divided into many components, and the one I'm going to target first is the scope and sequence. The frameworks, which are the scope and sequence, which are adhering to the Florida Continuous Improvement Model with regards to the focus calendar. What that has done is it's taken all of the standards that have to be taught in one calendar year at each grade level, and it has paced it to ensure that every student is exposed to the standard prior to March. The pacing is of the primary benchmark, which is the one that's included in the pacing scope and sequence that each of you have received. The secondary benchmark, which is school site authored, needs to be developed based on the data of the school from the FCAT that you received from last year, the data of the diagnostics that you just administered at your site, and the data of the ongoing progress monitoring that's done to ensure that the individual students' strengths are being enriched and that the individual students' weaknesses are being intervened. Each school on the pacing is supposed to have sat with their administrators in August and developed their secondary benchmarks, which were driven by your school site data. The primary benchmark is across the district with regards to the consistency. Now that's the scope and sequence. The lesson plans were developed as a resource for the teachers. In no correspondence that has gone out from the district office, as for any of us at the district level, at the area level, to anyone at the school site level, have we told anyone that the lesson plans are mandatory. They have never, ever been mandatory from our perspective. As a matter of fact, and I ask that you please, if we can focus on the information to ensure that we get across everything that you need. The lesson plans from the beginning have been a resource for teachers to utilize or not as they develop their own lesson plans in their classrooms. As a matter of fact, last week we had sent out email number 10 within the last 4 months to the teachers, to the principals, saying the lesson plans are not mandatory. Ladies and gentlemen, the lesson plans were developed as a resource to ensure that there's a starting point for teachers who are new to the career, teachers who are teaching the subject for the first time, teachers who are teaching a particular grade level for the first time, and that they look at the lesson plan and they use it as a reference. Just like when you go to GetSmart or you go to an educational store or you go on to edhelpers.com and you look at a lesson plan as a resource to start. I'm a teacher at heart. All of us are teachers. No one takes a lesson plan and wants to implement it prescribed step by step, because we all have our individual styles as we're teaching. I have to tell you, as of yesterday, I have visited 75 schools since school started in August in Palm Beach County. And it is incredible to see the level of academic focus that's out there, the teaching that's going on in those classrooms. You know, it's very, very important that we try to ensure that the information can get across and that we treat each other with the utmost professionalism as we try to develop the beginning of a communication and a partnership. Because again, all of us together can continue to move our district in the continued success that we want to have for our students and for Palm Beach County. It's going to take you and you and you and everyone in this room and the ones that are not here that are counting on you as the leaders of the teachers to go back into those schools and provide them the information. And together we're going to be able to do it, but we have to make sure that we allow the conversation to take place. So to continue, the lesson plans were there as a resource. As a matter of fact, as we go through the schools and the classrooms, we see teachers that have actually taken the lesson plans. They've printed it, they write on it, they add to it, they draw a line through things that are not applicable to their students, they add things to it that make it more rigorous and relevant to the level of children that they're servicing. But most importantly, it has the background on the standard that has to be taught. We know across the standards that we teach, they're very broad. And we could be teaching number sense and be teaching a component of number sense and be missing another component for a child that then goes to another school and has actually missed that particular concept. So the lesson plans, again, are there just as a reference. And I count on you going back to your sites and making sure that no one is using the word mandatory for lesson plans, because that's an inaccurate statement. They're there as a resource.